I think I'll start. Maybe I won't break the next one.
I'm gonna phone city council.
She's at my house.
Good evening, and welcome everyone to this meeting of the Conway City Council. It is now 4 o'clock on Monday, November 16th, 2020, and we're happy that everyone is here. Today we'll have an invocation, and we'll have an invocation and be led in prayer by the Reverend Wallace Evans Jr. of A Father's Place. Welcome. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
Good evening.
Let us pray. Our Father and our God, first let me say thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today. We thank you for this day and all your many blessings. Thank you for life itself, for the measure of health and strength, and for the many wonderful opportunities you provide. Thank you for the ability to be involved in purposeful work and to be of benefit to our fellow man. Thank you for all the freedoms that we enjoy in this great nation. Father, I pray for our mayor, for the council, the administrator, the staff, all the various department heads, all the employees and citizens of this great city. In particular on this day, Father, I'm asking that you will graciously grant them wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times, a sense of welfare and the true needs of all of your people. I pray for the agenda set before them today. Help them to engage in meaningful discussion. Grant them discernment, clear insight, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Continue to bless these public servants. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Reverend Evans, again, thank you so much. God bless. We're happy to welcome back Mr. Justin Jordan, and we have absent today Councilman Shane Hubbard, who is out for medical purposes.
Madam Mayor,
Madam, yes, sir.
Shane is actually joining us via Zoom.
Awesome. I didn't know. So we do have everyone present. One of the members is not physically present, but is participating on Zoom. Hey, Shane. We will now, Madam Clerk, have we satisfied all the requirements of the Freedom of Information Act?
We have.
Thank you, ma'am. And now for the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion? Mr. Hyman?
Mayor, I would make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Jordan?
Second.
We have a properly seconded motion to approve the agenda. All in favor with a show of hands, please. And that motion carries unanimously. If Mr. Hubbard would just speak to his approval. Thank you, sir. All right. So that is unanimous. And now relative to the consent agenda. Ms. Timms?
I make a motion we accept the consent agenda.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Goldfinch?
I'll second Ms. Tim's motion, please.
We have a properly seconded motion to also approve the consent agenda as it is set forth. Mr. Hubbard, so that I don't forget that you're there, do you vote to approve?
Yes.
Thank you. And others who are present, if you would share your approval with your hand. Thank you so much. That also is unanimous. Moving on now to section 5. A special presentation. A is Employee of the month of October 2020. Good evening. Good afternoon.
It's a great honor to introduce our October, for the city of Conway, October Employee of the Month to Mammy Hopkins. She is our, she didn't know she was getting this. So and there's her husband,
Oh, please
Coach
come
Mike
and join us,
Hopkins.
Coach.
head coach of the 2019 Boys
Yes.
Region Champs.
So glad you could join us.
All right, and I'll make this kind of quick, but this is pretty special for me. Mammy is our community outreach and engagement coordinator, and since she's came on, it's been, I mean, you see the place, it's amazing. She's a respected leader in our community. She's helped the recreation department better serve all of our citizens And that was a goal when I became recreation director to serve everybody. Her most recently, the thing she's done, we had that little trouble with Dr. whatever his name is. Manny stepped up and didn't have to say anything to her. We did a Monster Mash on Mill Pond, which was very successful. She's planned and organized our back to school backpack giveaway. She sought items that many children in our community desperately needed to start the school year. The first event that we had was so successful that we did another one the next week, which put another burden on her. But she loves it. Our next event that she's going to be in charge of is something that Councilman White had mentioned to me earlier. We're going to do another backpack giveaway festival in January when the kids go back to school. And I know that you wanted to see that. And Mammy is very influential in that. She's also taken the initiative to make this place look really good, the fall decorations, and she's getting ready for Christmas right now. She's an important leader in this department. She takes an idea and makes sure it happens, and it's done Mammy's way. And let me assure you that that's the highest standard that you could ever find. She's committed to our community and our citizens, and that's one of the many reasons why she is the October Employee of the Month. Thank you, man.
Would you like to say anything, Manny, Mrs. Hopkins?
And I'd like to present this to you, our plaque, and you get 8 hours vacation that you'll probably never take, but you can get.
The whole group.
There you go.
Thinking we had to clean up tonight.
So Mrs. Hopkins, if you'd like, you can say something.
Good talk, Ray.
I want to say thank y'all. I got to go finish cleaning up and thank you for.
Congratulations to you. Thank you, ma'am. Item B is a discussion on a request to annex approximately 10 acres of property located at 2787 East Highway 501, TMS 383-130-3001, and request to rezone from Horry County Highway Commercial to City of Conway Light Industrial. Ms. Hyman.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council. This was actually submitted because it had a change of ownership. This is the Cube Smart located on Highway 501. And because of that change in ownership and because they are contiguous to the city limits, the city requested that they annex at this time. And staff has recommended the LI zoning district because it is an existing mini storage facility. So therefore it'll give them a little more flexibility than if they go with straight highway commercial.
Yes, ma'am.
But I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments? Any at all? Well, that was a brief discussion, but apparently you did a really good job in explaining the stance of staff on this item. Item C, I'm sorry. Somehow I'm on the wrong page. Item C is a discussion on a request to annex 2 parcels consisting of approximately 1.5 acres of property located at 1617 Church Street and the adjacent parcel PINS 338-1003-0012 and 338-1003-0013, and request to rezone from Horry County Highway Commercial to City of Conway Highway Commercial.
And I just want to check,
Comment.
Mayor, if you don't mind, these next several items on my list, I may have some applicants here. I just want to check real quick and see if
Absolutely.
there's someone here.
Yes,
for this.
ma'am.
This is a request just to give you an idea of where we are. This is a big donut hole in the city. It is a couple parcels beside the existing Bojangles. You may recognize it. It's had a for sale sign for some time. The intent is to develop a commercial building here. There is another parcel beside it that they hope to acquire in the future also to combine with this. And once it is annexed and a commercial plan is in place, they'll go through the review with the city. But this is filling a donut hole in a prime space on Highway 501.
Right in the middle of town.
Right.
Is this the result of a sale of the property?
They are in the process.
I see. All right. Thank you very much. we'll certainly entertain any questions or listen to any comments that may come from the council. Mr. White?
Is there any known business that's going to be there?
They have talked to staff about it, but don't want to advertise that this time.
And would this also have the same entrance and exit one way, like one way in and out?
Off of 501. We don't know those plans quite yet, but they'll have to meet not only our ordinances, but they'll have to get an encroachment permit and meet DOT requirements as well.
And the reason I ask that is because Bojangles more or less has a circle in and out. Would it be, and that's caused some questions or problems sometimes.
Sure.
So I was just asking to make sure that.
Yeah, and that's something that staff will work out with them to make sure it meets our requirements.
And DOT is pretty much tries to limit curb cuts.
They do.
The more you have, the more it slows traffic and the more.
Correct. And there's distance
accidents there are.
requirements between them as well.
Okay. Any other comments or questions, Mr. Hyman?
Mayor, I did just need to bring it to council's attention. I have previously represented the sellers, well, the petitioners on this, and would need to recuse myself if there was a time to vote.
All right, sir. Thank you. And we'll just put the clerk on notice to have the paperwork ready when that should come before us. Thank you, sir. Anyone else? With that being said, we'll move forward to item D. A discussion on a request to rezone approximately 1 acre of property located at 1401 9th Avenue, PIN 338-1403-0041 from City of Conway Residential R1 to City of Conway Professional. Ms. Hyman.
Yes, and this is located, you can see here, on the corner of 9th Avenue and Burroughs Street. The parcel you can see, and I'm going to call it a boot for a lack of a better term, it's shaped kind of like a boot. The toe of that boot, the property owner would like to give or to sell to the adjacent property owner so that it could become their part of their backyard, if that makes sense. So with that, the adjacent property owner is zoned professional. This parcel's residential R1. You can't have a split zone parcel. So they couldn't give that little toe to the next property owner unless it's rezoned to professional. So with that, they're bringing the petition forward for professional, but they're asking for the entire parcel just to give them flexibility in the future. However, they have expressed to me that if council has heartburn over the whole parcel, that they could just rezone that little piece to give to the neighbor.
I see.
Yeah.
But what is being rezoned now is the whole,
They're requesting the entire for
That's right.
flexibility.
okay. But technically, I think I heard you say that most of it is already professional, except for,
And it's hard to see on here. I wish, and I may need to walk up there. This parcel that's requesting the rezoning is R1, but the little
The
piece,
giver,
the little
uh-huh.
tie piece,
is
the little
professional.
toe piece is that they want to give, that house is zone professional. So in order to give it to them for it to be combined, it has to be the same zoning district.
I think I just misspoke.
Yeah.
Right. I understood it. I just spoke to the
Yeah.
wrong,
Yeah.
when it came to the seller and the receiver.
This is R1, but this is professional.
Mhm.
So for them to give that little piece to them, they have to.
Right. Okay, thank you. Ms. Sims?
I'm glad that they've given us an option because I do have a little heartburn over this. I don't have any problems with the toe being given to the property owner or sold to them or whatever, and that whole piece being professional because I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be. But there's nothing else on that block basically except residences. And it's sort of the beginning of 9th Avenue residential because from there on to Highway 501, it's scattered commercials, but are professional, I guess it's scattered, but that's a huge piece of property
It
to be
is.
professional. And I don't know why we would want that to be professional. I think its purpose is best served as R1. I am curious to know what's happening with that property next door because it's been boarded up forever.
Last I heard, they were renovating it. They'd actually asked for the historic tax assessment through the Community Appearance Board to renovate it, but I can check on that and see where they are
I'd
in the
sure like for you
process.
to, because it's
Sure.
been that way for a long time.
But my understanding it'd be used as a residence and they were renovating it as such, but
The little house
the little house.
will be
Yes,
a
ma'am.
residence.
That's that we were told, yes, but I'll check on that again. To see if
Well,
plans
then
have
why
changed.
would they want the back piece zone professional?
Their zone professional, just so they can combine it.
Okay.
They're already professional.
Well, I'd rather
Yeah.
go the other way and keep the big property residential myself.
If a property that was previously zoned professional became residential, would we require a request by the owner to go back to residential?
They'd have to go through the rezoning process.
I see.
Right.
And the only purpose for which that might be sought perhaps is if somebody just want to protect the community.
Maybe so, because professional does allow residential, so there's really no
Right.
requirement
Other-
for them to
other reason
rezone
to
it
do
at
it.
this time, but
Sure.
yes.
Mr. Goldfinch, sorry.
Thank you. I agree with Ms. Timms. I'm cool with the little toe with the boot reverting, and that makes sense when you look at the map of those properties. It gives those folks a backyard now. But, and I guess I'd be interested to know when those properties were zoned professional. I'm assuming it goes back to the old hospital days with the doctor's offices and such
I don't
around.
think that was ever zoned. The big piece was never professional.
No, I'm
No,
talking
no,
about all
it
the,
is.
I'm talking about all the blue.
A
Oh, I
cluster
see.
of blue.
Because, all of those houses, I just, I didn't realize all of those houses on that section of Ninth Avenue are zoned professional, but they're residential. Yeah.
Yeah, and they've been that way for as long as I've been in, but yeah.
I
I think you're right,
there.
though.
Turn Ninth Avenue into,
No, you
Another
can't, we
Main
can't,
Street.
we don't want to go down
we
that road.
just need to be careful about these neighborhoods that we're reaching into and piecemealing.
Mr. Harmon?
I also agree with Mr. Goldfinch and Ms. Timms. I did hear from some feedback from some residents around that area that did have a little bit of concern when they got the mailing in regards to what was going there. That larger parcel has a pool in the back. I mean, it just doesn't fit the characteristics of professional. But
And again, when I spoke to the applicant, he understood that. I think he just, while he was requesting it, he thought he'd ask for the entire parcel just for flexibility in the future, but his intention now is to use it as a single family residence.
Anyone else?
May I ask, is this
Yes,
the
Mr. White.
Monkey Dog facility?
It's next door.
Okay. What kind of business are they, or did you say they were gonna?
From what they've told us, it's residences, not businesses.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. We'll move on then to item E, a discussion on a request to rezone approximately 4 and a little more than 3/4 acres of property located at 3270 Long Avenue Extension, PIN 32406030007 from City of Conway Low Density Residential to City of Conway Rural Agricultural.
This request, this parcel's been for sale for some time. I'm sure some of you may recognize it as an existing home with horse stables and a pool house located on Long Avenue Extension. There is a potential buyer who's interested in the home, but they have 2 horses that they'd like to locate on the property. It is currently zoned R1, even though, from what I understand, historically there were horses on the property. For that, they are requesting to rezone to RA to allow the horses.
And so my iPad rings when my city phone rings and I don't know how to stop that.
But I don't know how to fix
Jeff, I
that.
may need you. I'm so sorry. I made certain to turn my ringer off. Does that happen to others of
It
you?
happens to me.
Does it?
Probably shame.
If you could just stop it from happening again, I appreciate it. I can do without that for a while. Thank you, Jeff. And I apologize to anybody who might have lost their train of thought as a result of that going off. It's embarrassing. So over the course of time, if that rezoning were to turn into forest agriculture, what would be the major differences in, except for being able to house their animals?
It would
Um,
open it up for other animals also. So that's something to consider as well.
How large a lot is this?
It's a little over
Almost 5
4.88.
acres?
Almost 5 acres.
Right.
Okay. Thanks so much, sir. And that won't happen again? Ms. Timms?
Is this property, and I'm not quite familiar with who it is, I didn't write out there. Is it such that they would divide this up into lots?
I don't think it would work. If you can see, there's a home. And this existing home and the stables and a pool house, so it would be difficult. They might could parcel off if he's there, but
Be right in front of their house, yeah.
right.
Okay.
It's not set up to subdivide into really small
So you
parcels.
expect it to stay one big
I do.
parcel?
But except it could turn into that in years to come, could it not?
Turn into,
Be divided into separate parcels.
it could, as long as it meets the minimum lot size requirement.
Right,
for
but we're talking
RA.
almost 5 acres, so
Right.
there's opportunity for that.
Well, the RA, and I'm trying to remember, I think RA minimum lot size is 2 acres, 3
Okay.
acres, so they couldn't
Too.
subdivide it.
So,
Right.
well, yeah, they could divide it in half. In years to come, I'm just saying that house may not be there.
If they didn't rezone it,
Right.
correct. I'm sorry. Yes,
Okay.
if they didn't rezone it, absolutely, they could.
Okay,
yes.
but is it 2 or 3 acres? Do you know? 2? So they could subdivide an almost 5 acre plot into 2.
And they could subdivide this into 2 if they rezone to RA, but if it remains as R1, they could do smaller lots.
Okay, so something's not right. So is rural agriculture, is the requirement 2 acres?
Yes, the requirement on RA is 2 acres.
Right.
But right
So,
now it's R1.
It's R1
which is
now.
7,500 square foot.
right, but my question is, if it's 2 acres and this is well over 4,
Mhm.
it is foreseeable, not likely, but it is foreseeable that 4+ acre plot could be divided into 2.
It is, yes.
Yes. Okay.
As long as it met the lot width, lot depth
Sure.
as well.
Okay.
Mhm.
I just don't want to not consider
Sure, yeah.
the what ifs. Mr. Hyman?
I, for one, think that really Long Avenue is about one of the only places Conway has left that we're moving out in that could have these estate kind of lots.
Yeah.
I like it. I like the fact that you're bringing a little bit of country into Conway. I mean, that's that property has always, there's horse stables built on it. Just makes sense to me.
Mhm.
And I like the fact that them making it RA does make it much less likely for them to subdivide.
Anyone else? Mr. White?
Would this affect, this rezoning, would it affect the neighbors in that neighborhood?
And only that there would be horses on the property. But it wouldn't change the zoning or requirements for the neighbors.
Question.
Yes, sir. Mr. Goldfinch.
Thank you, Mayor. What is, and I know you can't have commercial use of animals, but you, in theory, you could have, and I'm just going to play devil's advocate. You could have a petting zoo, right? I mean, you could have,
No.
what are the restrictions on?
If it's something where the public is coming in and you're charging any sort of fee.
Well,
that's
that would be
considered
commercial, but I mean,
Correct.
you could, in theory, you could have a petting zoo that you didn't charge for as a hobby, and school groups come in and what's to say? And I know that's not what these folks want to do. They want to
Sure.
have 2 horses,
That's right.
which I think is great.
And it
with
would be the
Alex-
maximum allowed, right?
Right, because it's 2 horses per,
1 horse per 2 acres.
okay.
Mhm.
All right. And then there's something else in that ordinance that says that the animals, again, I'm not talking about these folks or their horses. I'm talking about when they sell the property in 20 years
Yeah.
and someone brings their chickens and donkeys and everything else in. There's something that speaks in the ordinance to the effect of it cannot become a nuisance. How do you define that?
when we start to receive complaints, more than likely, if it's smell or the animals are getting out and getting onto other people's property, I think we would consider that a nuisance at that time, when it's affecting the neighbors.
Yeah.
Again, that'd be something that we'd have to look at it, and like we do so many nuisances, but that would probably be when we would react.
Ms. James?
Where is the house that would be closest to the horses? On the other side, not this lot? Or is there one?
The horse stables
Yeah, what about above that on the other?
nothing here yet, but it would be across the road.
What size lots are, I mean, we got another little knee out in the back.
Those are all 1 acre lots.
1 acre lots, okay.
I believe that the discussion has ended. Thank you so much, Ms. Hyman. And now for item F, a request to rezone approximately 71 acres of property located between Dunn Shortcut Road and El Bethel Road, PIN 337-0000-0006, including approximately 65.25 acres from low-density residential to medium residential, and approximately 5.6 acres from low-density residential to highway commercial.
Yes, and Steve Strickland, the agent for this request, is here to answer your questions also. But the intent is to provide highway commercial on the front of the parcel. And we have another taller boot now on the front, and then residential in the back. They are requesting highway commercial along the frontage and R2 in the back to allow for the smaller lot sizes. As you may know, Horry County Schools is looking at the parcel to the south for a new middle school. So this is something that they're hoping to tie in with the schools with the access, and also the hope is that commercial would work here because the school is coming to the area. I think their idea is to be able to service the parents and the teachers coming back and forth to that school with some commercial options.
Do you know which school?
I think it's going to be the new Whittemore Park Middle School.
That's interesting.
Oh, what do we have there?
Because I think I'm privileged to say this. There's been talk that a property was purchased for that.
A different
purpose.
property? Okay. And it may be, I just know that they've discussed a middle school, and Steve, you may be able to answer that better than I could.
Okay.
At this time, we were told middle school, but I'm not in charge of Horry County.
Right. And I heard it
Middle
from somebody
school,
who
be
is, so. Okay, we'll get into that later.
We'll just say middle school, a future middle school. They have included here, you can see a very conceptual plan showing R2 lots in the back of the lot with commercial up front. This still has to go through review with city staff, so it is not finalized at this time. As you may all remember, in the past budget cycle, we discussed, or budget workshop, we had discussed amending our conservation subdivision ordinance to require any new development over 50 acres to at least provide a sketch of what a conservation subdivision would look like on the property. So this met that requirement. So they have also included a sketch for conservation subdivision. This could be done by right under the current zoning, the R1 zoning, just to give you some clarification on that. This is something that y'all have worked out with the school district, but it's very early on how they could possibly connect. I'm sorry.
Purely conceptual. When we started discussing within interconnection, they wanted to have a traffic circle. And based on their traffic engineering, looking at how much may back up in a traffic circle, they pushed that circle back. So that's how it could interconnect in the future.
But again, this is something that staff will make sure. We've reached out to Joe Birch, the planner of the Horry County Schools. So as we're reviewing this, we'll be in contact with them and make sure that we're all on the same page. And also, because I know it's probably going to be a question, you can see here where the flood zone is located on the property as well. But again, I'm happy to answer any questions. And Steve, if there's anything you want to add to what
Good evening. I appreciate having the opportunity to be here. I've been working with Tripp on this project, and as you know, Tripp is doing some, I'll call it affordable housing for the working people. He's trying to make sure that, the teachers, the firemen, the people who work here in Conway can afford to live here in Conway. So we put together this plan basically trying to take advantage of the fact that there most likely will be a school there, which is great for people with families because they can have a house beside one of the schools. The residential is the main thrust at this time because until the school gets there, what he was thinking, it would be nice if you're running late, and the working mother's the one who are carrying the load, shuttling kids back and forth. If you're running late and you didn't have lunch or you were dropping the kids off, having a place where they could get, an affordable meal for the kids, either before school or after school. And we actually showed, you could put up the land plan showing the child care center. He's been talking with someone who wanted to do an after school type care. That way kids that when they need, oh, I do? Okay, well, let's try. Okay. That way, and is this the
little button in those islands on the top.
that will, oh, okay. Oh, this is the first time I've seen this. Y'all have made my day today. That is going to be planned for a child care center, both during the day and then also after school. So kids would have a place that they could go to that was safe, and do after school type care. And again, that's where the whole residential commercial mixes into here. When we talk about this plan versus the R1, we lose 20 lots in the R1 conservation subdivision. And for this particular location, it's a big deal because we're having to pull water. I'm gonna do it from here. We're having to pull water and loop the water system to this property from a location on Dunn Shortcut and then from a second location on here. So we're having to bring the water from off-site a pretty good ways just to get it to the subdivision. And then we're looking at having a pump station that will connect into here. The difference in what that does into a lot cost, is significant because generally builders are using a factor of 4 to 5 times the cost of the lot to understand what the value of a house could sell for. So if I've got a $40,000 house, lot, I'm going to have roughly around $200,000 house. You add $10,000 additional infrastructure cost to a site, or you reduce the number of lots in your houses, your lots go from 40,000 to 50,000. It has that proportional cost on what they can sell. So again, we're trying to get, basically a subdivision that's affordable for these first time home buyers, for these young family home buyers. And with that, I'll be quiet and let y'all ask any questions if there's anything that you.
Mr. White?
You said, excuse me, thank you. The houses would possibly be $250,000?
No.
Okay. I was gonna ask,
No,
how is that?
The houses are going to be similar to the other project he has. Is it Rivertown Common? On Carson's Ferry. They're going to be more in that range.
Okay.
I was saying from the standpoint of the effect the lot cost has on what the house sells for. Because if you were able to deliver $30,000 houses, you can afford to build houses, cheaper. But as that lot cost goes up, it really has a much higher impact on the home cost. Because again, generally, the whole lot home package is a function of percentages. So when they are looking at 20% of their overall package is attributed to the lot cost, then everything goes up from there.
Very good. I just want to know how that was going to be affordable.
No, 250,000.
And for whom?
Right.
Thank you.
So now we'll entertain any questions or comments from the council. Mr. Goldfinch.
Thank you. Would our new design standards come into play here? Or the ones we're working on? Okay. All right.
Depends on what happens first, right?
I'll just say I hope so. I know we've had some issues out there with some other neighborhoods that, you know, and that stretches our resources.
Thank you for saying that.
Mr. White?
Would there be any funding in that area for resources like police and fire, et cetera?
That's a good question, and I'm the engineer. I can tell you about drainage, I can tell you about roads, I can tell you about utilities, but in terms of where the dollars come from, that's
Thank you.
a banker question.
Thanks, sir.
Anyone else? Well, sounds like we've had a fruitful discussion. Thank you for coming and for the information you brought.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, and now we're at item 6, public input. Madam Clerk, do you either have anyone waiting to come in and bring public input, or do you have any that was sent to you directly? Or indirectly?
There's nobody here, but I do have a letter dated today. Dear City Council of Conway, I would like to take a moment to thank you, the mayor and the chief of police, for your speedy action on the closing of Curry Street. This alleyway has long been a hotspot for criminal activity in the neighborhood. In just a short period of time, the closure has brought back a sense of safety to the area. Thank you once again for making our neighborhood a safe place to live. Phyllis Bellamy Wedge.
Thank you so much. And that's the extent of the public
That's it.
comment that you have. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Item 7 is a resolution. Mr. Goldfinch, let's hear from you.
Mayor, it would be my pleasure to make a motion to close public input.
Thank you so much.
My
Thank you
pleasure.
very much. Mr. Hyman,
I would second Mr. Goldfinch's motion.
we have a properly seconded motion to close public input at this time. All in favor, show your favor with raising your hands, please. And Mr. Hubbard, if we could hear from you too, please. Mr. Hubbard?
He's getting sponge bath.
Do you approve the closure of the public input?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And now that carries unanimously. Now we're down to item 7. I would say in opening that item 7 is very closely related to items 8B, C, and D. And would entertain a motion to merge those three, or
Mayor, I don't think you need
Is
to do
there-
a motion to merge, but at the time when it is appropriate to make a motion, one motion in consideration of all 4
I
would
understand.
be
Gotcha.
appropriate.
Thank you so much. All right, so we'll start with the resolution. Mr. Emmerich.
And I'll just briefly introduce this and then turn it over to Allison Williams for further discussion if there is any. This would be a very complicated subject if we hadn't been talking about it now for almost 2 years. This relates directly to the county hospitality fee case with Myrtle Beach, and that we are a party to the class action lawsuit, which was settled and approved by the court about a month ago. There has been a resolution, at least tentatively, in that lawsuit as in regards to the $19 million of city money that's been held in trust. The initial lawsuit allowed it all to come back to the cities in their pro rata share. There is an appeal. I don't know if it's pending yet or not, but at least being considered by the city of Myrtle Beach on how that money will be dispersed. But as of right now, it has been decided in our favor. This is the next step in that. And now I'm going to turn it over to Allison to introduce it to you and ask any questions that you have. And I'll stand by as well.
Thank you. Ms. Williams,
Thank you, Mayor and
how are
Council.
you?
This is the first of 4 agenda items, like you just said, to address the long-awaited lawsuit against the Horry County on the hospitality fees. Each municipality must reset to where we were prior to March of 2019, April 2019. So we just need to undo what we did. And this is the first step. The first step is the approval of the adoption of the resolution giving Horry County retroactive consent to continue collecting the 1.5% hospitality fee. Staff recommends approval. Are they approving it now or after?
Why don't you go through all
Oh, go
of
ahead and go through all of them. Okay. And the next one will be the first reading of the ordinance to repeal Chapter 5, Article D, hospitality tax. Again, this is just to comply with the settlement. The city needs to repeal the hospitality tax ordinance passed on April 15th, 2019. The next one is the first reading of ordinance 2020-12-5 to replace Chapter 5, Article D to reinstate hospitality fees. Same thing, the city will reinstate the hospitality fee at 1%. Following one will be first reading of ordinance 2020-12-5 to amend Chapter 5, Article E1 to adjust the accommodations tax rate. The city needs to amend the accommodations tax rate back to the 0.5%.
Thank you, ma'am. So everybody fully understand what our goal is and how we get to our goal?
Mayor, I'll just add also that this is a win for the city. Absent the requirement that we contribute at this point to any sort of improvements to our roads that was there before, this nets the city more money, hospitality fees, and potentially an accommodations tax than we're able to collect on our own. So going back to the old way without that is a benefit to the city.
Yes, thank you so much. So what is the, Ms. Thames, please? Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make a motion that we ratify and retroactively consent to the ordinances in item number 7 and 8B to repeal the ordinance that relates to the identification and collection of hospitality taxes. C, the ordinance relating to the identification and collection of fees to set and impose the 1% as authorized, and D, to amend the ordinance relating to the collection of local accommodations tax to set and impose a rate of 0.5% as authorized by state law.
Thank you, Ms. Thames. Is there a second? Mr. Goldfinch.
I second Ms. Tim's motion.
We have a properly seconded motion that's quite verbose, but it speaks to, no, it needed to be. I didn't mean to say that you made it verbose, but certainly spoke to the particulars.
I sprayed leave anything out.
But you covered all the particulars that need to be covered in this resolution. We have a properly seconded motion. Is there any further discussion? There being none. Let's hear from Mr. Shane Hubbard first so that I don't forget he's here. Mr. Hubbard? Mr. Hubbard, are you with us?
Apologize, Mayor, trying to unmute.
Okay, that's okay. We're just glad you're still with us. So would you vote to approve the motion just spoken of by Ms. Timms? Thank you so much. And the rest of us, all in favor, please show so with your hand. And the motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. Ms. Williams, you made something really difficult very easy. Mr. Emmert, you helped. Thank you so much. Item 9 is an item for consideration or items for consideration. Okay, so let's go back to 8A, the only one that hasn't been spoken of. This is first reading of ordinance ZA 2020-1207A, an ordinance to annex approximately 3.2 acres of property located at 3168 Long Avenue Extension, PIN 324-0604-0018, and request to rezone from Horry County Residential to City of Conway Low Density Residential. Ms. Hyman.
Yes, and this had a recent change of ownership and therefore was required to request annexation, and this actually would fill a donut hole on Long Avenue Extension.
Good. We certainly like to hear those filling up. We've had several lately. What is the pleasure of the council relative to first reading, Mr. Hyman?
Mayor, I'd make a motion that we approve first reading of the ordinance.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second? Mr. White?
Second.
We have a properly seconded motion to approve first reading of this ordinance. All in favor with a show of hands? Mr. Hubbard, I won't forget you. So the 6 people present voted to approve. Mr. Hubbard, what is your vote, sir?
Same. Thank you, Ms. Mayor.
Thank you so much. So the motion carries unanimously. And now down to item 9A. Consideration of a resolution of City Council to authorize the fee in lieu of open space at the Country Club Landing development. Ms. Hyman.
Yes, this, I'm sure you all may remember this. This was approved several years ago. And at that time, well, every new residential subdivision requires open space. Several years ago, we revised our ordinance so that if you had a small strip of required open space like this that wasn't really usable, you could pay a fee in lieu instead. That ordinance was not put in place until after this development was approved. So this was approved. They've got this weird little strip of open space that they would really like to get rid of, mainly because that's the only reason they need to set up an HOA is to maintain this strip. They don't have anything else, any other reason to have an HOA. So they are requesting to now pay the fee in lieu for the open space. And therefore that money could go into the city's open space fund and we can use it for parks and recreation and open space somewhere else. So they weren't offered that opportunity at the time, but council has since revised that ordinance and now they'd like to take advantage of it.
Would you, just to help us make a decision, what are the dimensions of that little strip, please?
And I have it. I did not bring my paper up here, but give me a second and I'll read it up again.
Sure.
It is.
I just don't remember.
About 600 feet long. I think it's about 30 feet wide.
Okay, all right.
And what will happen is there will be a new plat drawn up so that each homeowner will receive a strip. And there'll be a private drainage easement and they'll each take a portion of that as well. But it cleans it up because like I said, it seems silly to create an HOA just to maintain this little strip in the back that you can't really use as open space.
Do we have situations such as that in the city now?
No, because we offer that fee in lieu, which actually our next item on the agenda is someone requesting it for this very reason.
Right.
Because it really, when the ordinance was rewritten, it was such that you have to have at least an acre of usable open space. It doesn't, before that developers were using the little weird leftover spaces and that's not something that folks want to use.
Right, because it doesn't do any good.
It doesn't do anything. It does a lot more good to pay the fee in lieu and then the city can use it for actual open space.
Sure. Anyone else? Mr. Goldfinch?
Thank you, Mayor. I would move that we authorize the fee in lieu in this particular situation. And then I have a question.
Sure. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Mr. Jordan?
Second.
A properly seconded motion. So now your question, Mr. Goldfinch.
Thank you. So totally understand everything you just said. What I'm confused about is why would this be considered a subdivision?
Because it's more than 5 parcels. 5 lots. The way our ordinance is written, if you're developing less than 5 lots, it's considered a minor. If it's 5 or more, it's a major, and you have to provide open space, street trees, sidewalks.
So I guess someone bought one piece of property
and
sliced it up, and that's why it's considered a subdivision.
That's correct. And with that, if you have 5 or more and it's considered a major, you have to provide open space or pay the fee in lieu.
Okay. I've just never thought of this as a subdivision,
Right.
You know, houses having been built on an established road, but yeah, I get your point now. Thank you.
It's the 5 or more rule.
And the fee in lieu itself, what is the formula to determine what that fee is?
It's based on the number of lots times the average household size in the United States at that time times 0.008 is how you get the acreage. And then the fee is based on the appraised value of the acreage.
Of that acreage.
That's correct.
Gotcha. Okay.
So there's a formula for it.
Okay. So, I mean, just off the top of your head, could you sort of, for the whatever, you said 600 by 30 feet, I
And
think?
it's in my issue paper, which I did
It's
not bring up here with me.
8800.
I apologize.
8,800,
Yeah.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, 8,800 and some change.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Anyone else? I'll call the vote then. All in favor? Mr. Hubbard, are you in favor of approval of this ordinance? Mr. Hubbard?
Need one of those big sticks. that you might-
Mr. Hubbard, are you still with us? Well, let's just assume that he is temporarily not with us. All in favor with show of hands, please. So at least 6 people on the council have voted in favor and it carries. Hey, Mr. Hubbard. So have you been able to go over? Thank you so much. So that makes it unanimous. Thank you so much, sir. You came back just in time. Item B is consideration of a resolution of city council to authorize the fee in lieu of open space at the Cultural Point development. Ms. Ryman.
Yes, and Ryan Harvey, if you'd like to come in, our agent for this development is here to answer questions also. This is a similar situation, but this one isn't already built. It's in develop. We're reviewing the plans now, but it's a smaller subdivision, although it's still considered a major because of the number of lots. However, if they provided open space, it wouldn't meet our requirements. It wouldn't be usable. So they are requesting to pay the fee in lieu instead for this development. Then the city can use it for separate open space.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Mr. Hardy, is there anything you just needed to add or?
Yeah, I'd just like to add those lots that are actually on Oak Street, which is to the south of the page there. There is the one that's dimensioned right below the wetland. That one is definitely a fee in lieu candidate. The other 2 that are just to the north of that, they're actually thinking about adding those 2 parcels into the neighborhood commercial parcel. So I would just like maybe the flexibility, if they do decide to do that, so those 2 lots be dropped from the fee in lieu.
Okay.
If that's
No.
something we can decide in the next week or so.
I mean, I would think that's something that council could approve the resolution for the open space with the possibility of reducing it if these lots are removed.
The formula is clear. So,
Yeah. It's just whether or not to allow the fee in lieu or not to.
Okay, that's the only thing that's before us.
That's correct.
Okay.
If you approve the fee in lieu, then we would determine the amount at the time.
Okay, thank you. Is there, Mr. Hyman?
Mayor, I was at the appropriate time would make a motion to accept the fee in lieu.
Thank you, sir. Mr. White?
Second.
Properly seconded motion to accept the fee in lieu in the second circumstance as well. Is there any further discussion? There being none, I call a vote. Mr. Hubbard, are you with us?
I am with you.
Thank you, sir. And how would you vote relative to item 9B?
Approved.
Thank you, sir. And for others of us who are here in person, if you would show your approval by raising your hand, please. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Item C, consideration and approval of contract for the sale and acceptance of transfer of certain properties near the Conway riverfront. Mr. Emmerich.
At our last meeting in executive session, we reviewed proposals from the RFP for riverfront development. One of those proposals that was accepted by council was from Joe and Nancy Burrows for the transfer of the tractor shed property, as well as some remnant pieces on the right side of their building, on the south side of their building. This is a contract with Joe and Nancy to memorialize that transfer. This will also have to be on for first and second reading for us actually to give them the property. But this allows us to put it into writing, allows us to facilitate that, and allows them to start spending money on surveys and real estate closing costs. We've had it reviewed. It looks very good, and staff recommends it be approved.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Goldfinch.
Mayor, I move that we approve the consideration of contract for sale of certain properties that the administrator just spoke to.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hyman.
I would second Mr. Goldfinch's motion.
We have a properly seconded motion to approve the issue that sits before us at this time. Mr. Hubbard?
Approved.
Thank you, sir. And I will also raise that question for those of us in person. All who approve, raise your hand, please. And motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you
will
so
see
much,
that
Mr.
at the
Emery.
next two council meetings as well to
Sure.
facilitate the ordinance requirement.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Item D is consideration to put a deputy. I'm sorry, to put a duty weapon into surplus. Chief Long.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. Lieutenant Selena Small is retiring from the Conway Police Department. She has 23 total years of service in law enforcement, and she has asked that she be granted her duty weapon to go into a shadow box as a memento of her years of service. And that is the issue before you, is to allow me to declare that as surplus property so that it can be done.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Mr. Jordan.
Make a motion that we place this weapon into surplus and waive that nominal fee.
Thank you. And I'd like to second this one myself. We have a properly seconded motion to follow the recommendations of the police chief to put a duty weapon into essentially retirement and to make it a memento for a long-term dedicated and loyal service person in our police department. Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor, will you show your hand, please? Mr. Shane Hubbard, what is your vote, please?
I'll approve, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. That makes it unanimous. Chief, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Item E, consideration of reclassification of one patrol position to lieutenant. Chief Long.
As we have seen a little bit of growth in the department with some new positions being created and additional positions on our patrol response side being added as well. We're seeing that the patrol division is now the largest segment of our department. It is at full staff, 36 officers with one lieutenant that is leading that division. I would like to see a little bit better accountability there and to break that into two teams with a new lieutenant taking a role there so that they would be responsible for half the patrol division of our department. We do have the position to make that available to reclassify a patrol position. The total impact with the fringe and salary is about $18,500. With our current being a little bit understaffed, we have 4 vacant positions now on the patrol side. We would never use all of our allocation of salary for the year anyway, so we would be much in the black at the end of the year as it comes, even with this change here.
All right, sir. Thank you so much, Mr. Hyman.
Mayor, I would make a motion that we accept the request for reclassification of one patrol position to lieutenant.
Thank you. Mr. Goldfinch.
I'll second that motion, please.
We have a properly seconded motion to also approve the reclassification of a patrol position to lieutenant. Is there any discussion? And Mr. Hubbard, please just yell if I forget to ask you specifically if you have comments or questions.
You know me, Mayor.
Thank you.
I vote for the approve.
Thank you. And now I'll call the vote of those of us who are present. All in favor, with a show of hands, please. And that makes that motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much, Chief.
Thank you so much.
Item F is going to be the hardest thing that we have to do tonight. And it is consideration of the 2020 City of Conway Christmas card. Who's doing the presentation? Ms. Tessier?
Yes.
Thank you.
We sent a flyer announcing the Christmas card contest to the local schools on Facebook, on other social media, and on the city's access channel. The city received a total of only 33 cards this year, which is significantly less than we've gotten in past years. But we're assuming that because school is being held differently this year, that accounts for the difference in the numbers. Cards were received from Kingston Elementary, Conway Middle, Conway Elementary, and Conway South Elementary. And you have 3 cards before you that staff selected for your consideration, and they are marked on the back 1, 2, and 3 for your convenience.
So each one of us has copies of the 3 cards. And when I said.
Except Mr. Hubbard.
Oh, okay. Would you do that? Thank you, sir. Tell them which number that is, please, Adam.
That's one.
Yes, got it, got it. Okay.
So I don't,
Thank you, Adam.
You're welcome.
I don't know that we need a motion so much as, because we're just making a choice between the three. I'm going to start with number 3 and ask for those persons who would like to make number 3 our Christmas card for 2020 to say yes now, or somehow indicate to us that. Mr. White? Number three. Ms. Timms?
Yeah.
Number 3. All right, we got 2 votes. Is there anyone, Mr. Hubbard, you did not want to vote for number 3, is that correct?
Number 3, yes, ma'am.
Number 3, I don't understand now.
Which one that was, Shane?
We don't want to influence you now. We just want to make sure.
This is the one that's being considered now.
Yes, I got that one. Thank you, Adam.
All right, so now the question is
This
that,
screenshot.
huh?
He did a screenshot.
Good. So did you just vote for number 3, or did you just acknowledge that you know which one is number 3?
Both.
Okay, so number 3 gets 3 votes. So now we'll consider number 2. Is there anyone, and I don't have to ask Mr. Hubbard because his vote has been cast. Is there anyone present who would like to vote for number 2? Mr. Hyman and Mr. Jordan. That makes 2 people. All right, and finally for number 1, is there anyone who would have chosen number 1? Mr. Goldfinch and yours truly. So the winner is card number 3. Congratulations to the person who developed it. I guess we'll announce this later. So,
We'll have them come to the next count.
awesome, wonderful. But to those 3 finalists,
Question,
sure.
because are we gonna get in trouble? Is
I,
that door
I thought
something?
about that.
I did too.
I thought about that.
That's my only, I don't want anybody to say, you know how people are.
That's right. Maybe the artist will agree that the name be obliterated, or it be something that doesn't. I'm sorry?
You could call it Christmas Cafe.
Yeah, something like that.
Somebody could write.
But somebody,
It's a beautiful picture.
it really
Yeah,
is.
It really is.
But yeah, I certainly did think about it appearing to be, the card shows a specific business by name. And rather than our sort of offering free advertisement for one business out of, the hundreds that we have, if somebody would please get in touch with the artist and see if we can just obliterate or change, if they would consider a new name for the business that doesn't, and use a name that does not exist in Conway, and the decision has otherwise been made.
If they are not willing to do that, do you want to pick another one right now? Because we really do have to get these printed.
One was the second vote getter.
One was the second vote getter?
No.
No, it was a tie.
Time.
Okay, so I see. So now we have, so the consideration is this. Let me just say
You might
this.
have the same winner 2 years in a row. It's not the same person, is it?
They're checking to see.
Because I don't want to give the same person 3 years in a row.
It's new, okay. So here's where we are. The card that was selected by this council is just a tiny bit controversial in the sense that it names a business. We're going to ask the artist if he or she is willing to help us to change that, to make it neutral. If the artist is not, the council feels uncomfortable advertising for a single business. And only if that is the case, we're now deciding what the next winner, who the next winner would be. That would only come to bear if our artist will not allow us to do away with that name. So let's look at number 2. All in favor of number 2, let's start with Mr. Hubbard. I see Mr. Hyman's hand.
I couldn't tell which business it was, so I'm not, I feel like number three, like the picture. I didn't say words.
You're the one that you voted for, Mr. Hubbard, is in fact the one that won. What the council is saying is, because it does give favor to one specific business, we believe that to be beyond the scope of what we want our Christmas card to do. And in such case, we're going to ask the artist if he or she will agree to just remove the name of the business and just make up a name, for example. Only if that artist says, no, I want it exactly the way I did it. We are looking at a substitute winning card. So the question is, we have two others left, and I'm taking a vote for card number 2. So.
Okay, I'll agree with that. Thank you.
Okay, does that mean you're voting for number 2?
No, he's agreeing with us doing this.
Yes, with those, yes.
Okay, so we got 2 for number 2.
If he likes the train or the turkey.
I know, right? I think he wants the church. And all of those who would prefer card number 1, if you'd show your hand, please, because Mr. Hubbard's already voted. All right, and that is 1, 2, 3. Are you not voting?
No, I was on 2.
You were on 2? I'm sorry. So there were 3 for 2. There were Mr. Hyman, Mr. Jordan, and Mr. Hubbard voted for card number 2. Now, those of us voting for card number 1, show your hands, please. Mr. White, Ms. Timms, Mr. Goldfinch, and yours truly. Boy, I told you it'd be the toughest thing we did tonight.
I just want to say, I do not go to that church.
Yeah, it really is nice. It really is nice.
I like it.
I liked it if it had a little color.
Yeah,
Right,
that's
it's
what
not
I
so
thought.
festive.
It is white. It is white.
Yes. But at any rate, the decision has been made. And moving forward, we'll now hear the report of the city administrator, Mr. Adam Emmerich, who is standing and ready to deliver.
You did say that would be the hardest thing we did tonight.
Yes. Was I wrong?
No, you were not. The good news is my report is pretty short tonight. We had that big rainstorm earlier in the week that was part of Hurricane Eta. We are in minor flood stage at the river, but we're coming down, which is good. It's falling pretty slowly. We should be below 11 feet tomorrow, which is still minor flood stage. And by the end of the week, we should be out of minor flood stage in action level, but not in flood stage anymore. Of the heavy rainfall events that we've had in the last 2 months, they've all been remnants of hurricanes that have hit the Gulf and came up through and caused the excessive rainfall. The river's been very good about getting rid of the water in each one of those events. And in about 2 weeks, we've been able to get back to normal, which is a good sign for the river and that kind of the health of our watershed. We are experiencing another hurricane hitting Mexico in the next day or so, but it is not predicted to come anywhere near us. So as long as it stays on its current track, we should be fine on this one.
Does hurricane season end in November?
Oh yeah, we're over.
Well, I thought it ended in October.
It's November
Technically,
1st.
I see.
Yeah,
Right.
Nobody told the hurricanes that.
Right.
Wood, it's over.
Yeah.
That's right.
Season's over. That doesn't mean we're over.
That's right.
Some bad news. The COVID numbers have been steadily increasing for the last 2 weeks. They've hit the highest weekly totals in South Carolina since August for the last couple of weeks. Nationwide, we're at the highest levels ever. And those numbers are worsening every day. They're over 130, 150,000 a day in the United States, which is just absolutely unfathomable. Locally, we're also trending upwards. Today was not a bad day, but over the weekend, we were close to 100 on both Saturday and Sunday, which is, again, back to August, July sort of numbers. That's not good news. In positive news, however, Coastal Carolina's game against Troy was postponed due to COVID complications with the Troy team, which means we're still unbeaten for the year and still ranked 15 in the country. This weekend, we faced App State, which is going to be a challenge. App State's always a very hard team to play. They're always very highly considered. In other Coastal news, I got a lot of Coastal news tonight. The soccer team from Coastal won the Sun Belt Championship yesterday in Atlanta, and they secured a seed in the NCAA tournament, which will be played in the spring. This is the 4th championship for men's soccer in 5 years. which is just remarkable. In other coastal news, Dustin Johnson won the Masters yesterday with a record 20 under par score, which is just, again, crazy. And Coastal's volleyball team completed their season as undefeated, and they are ranked number 15 in the country as well. So it's been a great year so far, and they haven't even started playing baseball yet. So go on. And then tonight, that's it for my report. Tonight, you're going to hear department heads from James Friday and from Reggie Jenrette. I think James is sitting closest to the door, although Reggie looked the most eager. So whoever wants to come in first can come on.
Mayor, Council, how are y'all?
Yeah, how are you?
Good. Solid Waste Department has 21 employees within the department, 1 department head, 1 supervisor, 9 heavy equipment operator, 2, 7 heavy equipment operator, 1, 3 sanitation workers. I have 3 openings, 1 heavy equipment operator, 1, and 2 heavy equipment operator, 2. New equipment, front loader, roll-off truck, recycling truck, knuckle boom truck, and garbage truck. All the trucks are up and running in excellent shape. I want to thank y'all for approving the trucks. The commercial route. The commercial routes are a little down because of COVID-19. Some of the restaurant lobbies are still closed. But October of 2019, we picked up 700 tons for the month. In October of 2020, we picked up 680 tons for the month. The residential routes are growing, and that's because of COVID-19. A lot of kids are still home. People are working from home in the new homes. In October of 2019, we picked up 510 tons. October of 2020, we picked up 550 tons. Yard waste is averaging the same. Last year, we picked up 275 tons of yard waste, and this year, 275 tons. Bulk items is averaging the same. We're picking up 110 tons a month. The recycling routes is growing. In October of 2019, we picked up 114 tons of recyclables. In October of 2020, we picked up 120 tons of recycling. The cardboard. In October of 2019, we picked up 76 tons of cardboard. In October of 2020, we picked up 81 tons of cardboard. The total landfill bill is averaging $60,000 each month. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Well, these tons just sound like a lot of garbage.
It is.
Is there any change? Are you hearing anything from the Solid Waste Authority about any changes in their prediction for how long the facility will last? Is there any talk about that?
It is. They're predicting the next 20 to 25 years.
Still,
and they're
okay.
going to have to make some arrangements.
I see. Okay. At which time I can only expect that our costs will increase because it'll have to be driven so far away.
Correct.
Okay. Anyone else?
Reggie, how many open positions did you say you have?
3.
How many people applied for those positions?
Probably 4, and none of them was qualified but 1.
So if anyone knows anyone who would like to work for the city of Conway, Reggie needs people. So.
Yeah. Okay. Can we see the qualifications online?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, on behalf of this group and those people out there, we want to thank you for what you do. I mean, there's nothing that would cause the kind of desperation that would happen if you guys didn't do so well what you do. And just to say I appreciate it never sounds like enough, but thank you.
Thank you too. All right.
Absolutely. Ah, a stranger. How do you do?
I would do well.
So glad you're here. I'm not going to say your name.
Mayor Galza. Vehicle maintenance in October, worked on 214 vehicles, equipment, and solid waste was our frequent customer last month. As usual, they had 51 times they had a work order, and utilities was number 2. So we try to give service with a smile. And we have one opening still for a mechanic. We have we looked real hard to try to find somebody. We only had one applicant, and he didn't show up for the interview. So.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, I was disappointed with that one.
Oh, my. So, I mean, do you think that, is there a way that we're falling short that maybe we can get the word out? Or do you think that there's a shortage of that kind of skill in our immediate community? Or you have any sense of what's going on?
We generally had success finding mechanics in the past. Now, I know a lot of them, they look at, I mean, we don't match what mechanics pay around here, but most mechanics doesn't have the benefits we offer. So it's just.
So that's a little trade-off.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know,
Does Orange Georgetown Tech still have a mechanic?
No.
They don't. Maybe that has something to do with it. I mean, I'm just surprised. There's so many people looking for work. It seems that there'd be a charge towards us. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your presentation.
One would think.
Yeah.
In utilities, October, we had 276 service calls, and we had 50, out of that, we had 58 water main repairs. And we installed 250 foot of sewer line, 2 fire hydrants, made 30 sewer repairs, and installed 2 residential pump stations. And for preventative maintenance, last month, we smoke tested 15,500 feet of sewer line, cambered 2,600 feet, and cleaned 8,500 feet, and tested 151 backflows. We have, we also did almost 500 locates for contractors, and we are full staff. So we had October, we filled up. So.
And how many staff in that department?
Total, we're about 50.
Okay. Well, thank you.
We get a lot is what is smoke testing. Can you tell council if they get questions?
Oh, yeah. The smoke testing is.
I used to go out and see.
Or they basically take the manhole cover off, and we actually put smoke down into the sewer with a big fan and pushes it in, and we can see where there's any cross connections. Like some people will hook their storm drains to the sewer line, and it'll come out their gutters. It'll if there's a cap off a clean out, smoke will come from there. All those are it's part of an I&I reduction, because every time rainwater goes into the sewer system, we're paying to treat rainwater at the sewer plant. Plus, it's one of the reasons that every time there's big rains, you see sewers overflowing, is from this infiltration into the sewer lines.
So that's to find where there are problem areas.
Yeah, and sometimes it'll be a broken service line going in that we'll do a point repair. And once we see it, we go back with a camera and take a look at it and send a crew out to dig it up and repair it. So it's just some preventive maintenance to kind of reduce that I&I.
Well, we couldn't live without you either. So please tell all of your staff that we continue to appreciate the good job that they do, the work they do for the city.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here. I believe that concludes the city administrator's report, if I'm correct. I'm pretty certain tonight, Mr. Hyman, that you're first up. Because I hardly ever go that way, but I know I did last time.
You didn't last
Because you weren't here.
time. You didn't last time. I was not here.
Well, no.
But that's good.
I stand corrected.
It doesn't matter.
No, yeah, it
Doesn't
does.
matter.
Let's make him, he wasn't here last time, so we'll start with Mr. Justin Jordan.
All right, well, I'm glad to be back tonight. Yeah, I appreciate all the calls, texts, that I received over the last 2 weeks. Still have to have some more tests run, so I appreciate y'all keeping me in mind on those, trying to figure out what's going on. But, of course, Adam beats everybody to the punch every week. But, congratulating Coastal once again. It's huge for our city. They're doing some great things there. And just wish everybody a happy and healthy Thanksgiving, because we will not see you until afterwards. So with that, I am done for the night.
Thank you, sir. Mr. White.
Thank you, Mayor. I have two questions. It was noted that you said the COVID numbers were rising. Can we as the city partner with somebody to do some more testing in the area?
I believe Coastal Carolina has a testing coming up this week or next week, and DHEC contacted me about two that they're working on within the city limits. One is going to be at the Rock Church, and one they're working on at the Church on Cultra. I've not gotten dates from them yet, but those are ones that are in the works.
Okay.
So once we get those dates secured, we'll put them out on all of our normal channels.
Very good. Thanks, sir. And then the new hire from Loris. I don't know his name and don't know who he is.
Brandon.
Huh?
Brandon Harrelson.
Brandon Harrison. And when could we get to see what he looks like?
I think we brought him to a meeting a couple of weeks ago, but he'll be on the next meeting, I think, for the report.
Okay.
We had to give him something to learn to report on.
Very good, very good. I just want to know who we're going to put. Thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry. The young lady, Miss Phyllis Belgy, that sent that note in from about the closure of Curry Street. I was brutally attacked, but I just let it go. But anyway, what's the name? Is Barbara White? I guess that's how she says her name. Hickman White. Mm-hmm. She sent a letter also to the city, and I wanted to know whether we received that letter from her. It wasn't read tonight, but she told me she sent one, brought one to the city. Okay. Please look, because I hate to get beat up again. Thank you.
Ms. Jones?
Well, again, Adam stole my thunder too. I had all kind of notes about Coastal, but they've been covered and
we could always have our comments first and steal his
Our
thunder.
report was shorter.
well, the only other thing that I wondered if we might want to take a look at is because of the rise in COVID numbers, schools are letting out prior to November. A lot of colleges are not going back until January. And I wondered if we didn't want to do our December meeting by Zoom. Just a thought.
Good.
Since one of us is doing it anyway, it might.
Bill.
Go ahead.
No. I just saw Bill Graham walk by.
Oh, Bill. All right.
I mean, I think we're relatively safe here, but I mean, I think there needs to be more consistency about what we do across the board places. And I think if we're having closures, we need to all address what we can close. If we're not, that's a different story, but it's just a thought for other people to respond to as well.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Goffin.
Speaking of Brandon, I got a very nice comment, feedback from a citizen who he helped. So that's good. That's all I got.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hammond.
Very briefly, I rode around a lot during and after the rain, just kind of checking to see what stormwater was looking like, and areas of Conway that had in neighborhoods that have been predominantly pretty bad in the past were not. And that was certainly nice to see, and didn't hear near the chirps on Facebook or in person about the city doing nothing for flooding. But so stormwater crew, which is I know that Brandon is new to that, but I was very happy to see how well our stormwater was doing. And that's it.
Thank you, sir. I thought I'd bring just a couple of pieces of information from a recent Association of South Carolina Mayors meeting. Some of these things everybody's well aware of, but just a couple of legislative wins that have come primarily with the help of the Municipal Association include, of course, the Hospitality Flexibility Bill that allows us to use some of that money for stormwater and drainage as eligible expenses. There's been a fund created, the Firefighter Cancer Claims. It is like the PTSD program for police officers, but there's a fund in place specifically for firefighters contracting cancer related to the work that they do for the city. Their premiums won't suffer. It's not considered workers' comp, that sort of thing. Another is, it's really more helpful outside of municipalities, but there's a telecom improved concessions for historic districts and et cetera, in terms of the aesthetics. It's just something we need to know and keep an eye on, but we have gotten some more strict guidelines just in terms of what we want to see happen in our historic districts relative to the setting up of those small cells. There's broadband. This is the one that really is for rural co-ops, but there's a broadband expansion, and we're rural enough that, you know, within feet of some of us, there are people being serviced by rural co-ops, and they're able to add enabling equipment to their poles, like fiber and that sort of thing, to get broadband to people who still don't have access to it. And the final one was the Business Tax Standardization Act that I think everybody is aware of. And I am so proud to be an alum of Coastal Carolina University. So very proud. The more they do, the more I hear on national television the words Conway, South Carolina. And not only are we being placed securely on the map, but in such a positive, strong way. I've got college friends from all over who remember very well that I'm from Conway and that I started at Coastal Carolina, who are calling and texting and giving accolades for our successes in that regard. I'm really proud that Christmas is starting to happen around us. First time I drove over the bridge and saw the lights, it was like, I remember so distinctly last year and how close it was to Christmas before we knew we could get lights on the Main Street Bridge. And they are there already. So one of the things that, you know, we'll always make decisions about whether or not those decisions related to our state of emergency, our mask mandate, all those things. And people ask me all the time, especially seniors ask me, do I believe that some of the provisions in place here and elsewhere will really keep them safe? And my answer always is, it is also your individual responsibility to keep yourself safe. Do those things that make sense and add a little bit more to it if you truly want to keep yourself safe from that maddening virus. I so look forward to a day when we're looking at it through our rearview mirrors and it becomes something that we don't speak of every single day. I'm confident that day exists. Hope I live to see it. And with that, I would wish you all an adieu as I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Goldfinch.
So moved.
Mr. Hyman.
Second.
We have a properly seconded motion to adjourn this meeting of the Conway City Council. All in favor? First, Mr. Hubbard, are you in favor of an adjournment? And did I get Mr. Hubbard to speak?
No.
I didn't. So,
Yes, I am. Unfortunately, I'm on my phone and I just got a text to mute, so I just had to unmute.
So, but-
We're so very sensitive.
well,
The audio in here, I appreciate what everybody's done to accommodate, but none of you have any secrets. Okay, everything y'all said.
Well, I'd rather you know too much than not enough. Mr. Hubbard, everyone else had it. Everyone else had an opportunity to give comments as a council member, and I have to admit that I did kind of forget you for that. So please feel free to speak. If there's anything you want to share. He's good. Okay. All right. So we have motion to adjourn. It's been seconded. Mr. Hubbard, do you approve our adjourning this meeting?
Approved.
Thank you. And the others of us, if you're in the flesh, raise your hand if you approve. Motion carries unanimously. It's been a good evening.